So the question is, what intervention will you plan? Think about over what time frame, and ask yourself the question, what can I test on a smaller scale? So, for instance, one of the things I want to do is physical activity equipment. And I didn't, okay, I want to put physical activity equipment in my agency. What can I do smaller? And I've already told you the example. I'm just going to do it on one floor. So that's where this, the rapid cycle improvement comes, is if you can answer the question, what could I do on a smaller scale to be successful quicker, and then improve on that, spread it out to the next floor or whatever. So just, keeping those questions in mind. Anybody have anything to add or questions about what you're doing next? All right, so what intervention we plan?
Question 3.
What's that?
Question 4.
We're doing question 3. I'll give you about 10 or 15 minutes to do that, and then we'll do question 4.
Okay.
So,
I think they're numbered wrong.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it is. I'm sorry.
You
Yeah,
know,
4 and then 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went back and forth on how I was going to order the questions. So you know what? They don't have to be in order, but this way we're going to do it today. Yeah. Okay, so 10, 15 minutes. Remember, the rules are fantasy. It can be fantasy or real, and you're going to share this at the end, and you can blow bubbles and eat chocolate while you're We're going to do the last question. So if you haven't finished up with the what is the intervention, you'll still have a little more time to do that. When you were planning the intervention, hopefully one other question you were asking is how does that relate back to the data? Because again, this is the place where we all like to run free and do things that really seem like they feel good and would be fun to do, but do they relate back to what you're trying to accomplish and impacting the data? So the last question that I obviously couldn't decide what order to ask them in is, so I think this is question 3 in your packet. How do you know if you are successful? What measures will you use? So when you, so for example, oh dear, that's not what I want. In the Get Healthy agency, I decided, remember, I'm trying to increase physical activity. So what does success look like for me in the interventions that I'm using? Remember, I had like 4 or 5 activities to make up my intervention. 50% of the employees participate in at least one activity that we plan. Employee satisfaction improves. One that I was going to insert, so we didn't have so many data numbers, was that there is a policy in place for physical activity equipment on site. So that can be a measure. That can be a measure of success. And then there are some measures that are out a little bit farther, and my Department of Health friends, there's just a ton of terminology for all of this, but if you know that you want to measure what you're doing as close in timing as to your interventions. But there are some things you only get the data for one time a year, like from your health risk assessment. So in 1 year, the number of overweight and obese employees decreases by 1%. And I just took that out of the sky. You may want to just say decreases or whatever. And another one, and again, these two relate back to the data set that we're trying to impact, is the number of employees whose blood sugar is greater than 100 will measurably decrease. So there are tons of ways to write these. This is really today just a way to model and have you get a feel for how to go through the questions and make sure you're circling back to using your data. Okay? Anybody, especially you guys, want to add anything to this piece? So what I had here, I don't know how many of you remember this from the beginning because we tried to lay out a bunch of stuff for you in learning session 1. And remember we said the change package is really the model framework. It's kind of what you're aspiring to achieve. You'll never totally get there. It's just the umbrella with which to plan. But we also had this model for how to get there. And we talked about rapid cycle improvement and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to kind of show you the picture again, this is exactly what we've done today. What are we trying to accomplish? How will we know if the change is an improvement? What changes can we make that will result in improvement? So the order of the questions is a little bit different. So anyway, just want to point that out. So the task at hand for the next 14 minutes is to continue answering the question of the intervention or what change you're going to make if you haven't finished that. And then how do you know if you're successful? And don't worry if you don't get it perfect or you only come up with 2 measures of being successful, because this is a case study and you can take this away and embellish it later on, or you never have to use it again.